Let's talk about civil disobedience and No King's Day on October 18th. Specifically, the fact that Indivisible as an organization is calling for no civil disobedience at the No Kings protests. I keep getting questions in my YouTube comment section about this, so instead of answering everybody individually, I thought I'd just make a video to address this concern. Like, why is it that Indivisible is like, hey, we're not going to do civil disobedience on No King's Day on October 18th? So to be clear, civil disobedience is a conscious, planned action where you are choosing not to obey a law that is unjust or immoral. It is a form of protest in which you are refusing to comply with the law. And there are legal consequences for that. You can be arrested, you can be fined, you can be brought up on charges. And in 2025 in the United States of America, you can be brutalized by law enforcement. You can have your constitutional rights violated. Civil disobedience is a conscious choice. And like any nonviolent direct action, there is an element of theater to it. You are performing for an audience of millions because what you are doing is making a choice to engage in behaviors, to engage in nonviolent direct action that highlights the immorality, the cruelty, the illegality of the government, specifically of the Trump regime and the American Gestapo known as ICE. Now, I don't have like direct insight into the minds of Indivisible leadership, so I'm going to be speculating a little bit here. My thought about why it is that they are asking people not to engage in civil disobedience at No Kings is because the point of No King's Day is to create the lowest possible barrier to entry for people to step in to resistance work for the first time. It is meant to be inclusive, family friendly, entirely nonviolent. It's meant to be accessible for people with disabilities, for children, for the elderly, for people who are at higher risk of being targeted by the regime. No King's Day is about a massive public display of opposition against the Trump regime. So we are trying to make like a very, very low threshold to entry, right? A very small ask of people. We're not asking them to risk their lives. We're not asking them to risk their liberty. We're not telling them you're going to be doing something where you're going to get arrested or potentially brutalized by the police, right? That is not the point of No King's Day. Point is to prioritize safety and to have as many people who are opposed to what the regime is doing feel welcome and included. This is about helping people get their toe in the door of resistance, right? Very small ask. We build their confidence. We help them get connected with us, with other people in the movement. And we're like, okay, now let's level you up a little bit. Now that you feel like really pumped, right? You know that you're not alone. You know that millions and millions of people are standing with you. Let's help you get connected to other forms of resistance, other ways that you can give of your skills and your time and your labor. Let's build those connections and empower people to do more. I'm sorry, my tummy's growling. I'm so hungry. Most Americans are not radical. Most Americans are not out there being like, yeah, I want to get arrested. No. So if you want a massive display of public opposition, you have to make it feel accessible to the majority of people. No King's Day is not radical. It is a very mild ask, right? It is just being like, hey, in the United States of America, protesting, that's as American as apple pie. That is a proud tradition. We are all going to turn up with our cardboard signs and our cute outfits and our kids. We're going to bring our neighbors. We're going to bring people from our church. And we are going to stand together in solidarity. And we are going to build those community connections. And we are going to create a mass public visible display because we are trying to get 10, 12, 15 million people out in the streets. And those people are not radical. Those people are not interested. They have not consented to, they have not been trained in nonviolent direct action techniques and tactics. We are not going to engage in civil disobedience. When you are looking at the spectrum of nonviolent direct action, civil disobedience, way down here, right? You got to have skills and training, and you have to have preparation, implementation. You have to have solidarity with your group. You have to have the consent of everybody involved. And speaking of consent, because we're trying to have people who are showing up for the first time, they're people that we've not previously necessarily been in community with. They're not people who've had training. We still want to be in solidarity with them, and that means we need to prioritize their safety, right? Our Indivisible group, like we chant all the time, who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. If you want to do civil disobedience, don't do it on No King's Day. Don't do it at a No King's protest because the other people that are showing up, they've not consented. You are exposing them to risk if you are choosing to refuse to comply with an unjust or immoral law. In 2025 in the United States, law enforcement will use that as an excuse to brutalize anybody that's with you. And I guarantee you they will first focus on people who are not white, people who are already targeted by the regime. They'll pick brown folks, they'll pick trans folks. So in the video that I made yesterday where I was talking about how like, hey, your information on your cell phone, ICE may try and access that if you go to a protest. Had a lot of people in my comments who are like, I don't give a shit if the government accesses my phone. I got nothing to hide. And I'm like, no, it's not about you. You can be cavalier with your data. You may have no problem with them accessing your private information or potentially having law enforcement all up in your business as a result. It's about having solidarity with the other people that you are organizing with, right? Because your data is connected to other people. You are having conversations with other people. And I'm not saying that you're doing anything illegal. You don't have to be doing anything illegal in 2025 for Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice to decide that they have beef with you. So it's about solidarity with the other people in your group. It's about protecting their data and their privacy. Same thing when we're looking at No King's Day. Your direct actions have got to take into consideration the safety and solidarity that you have with the other people who are at the event with you. So I don't think that No King's Day is the place to be involved in civil disobedience. That is not the point of that event. And for any action of civil disobedience that we're going to carry out, it has to be scripted, planned, gamed out. We have to anticipate all the ways it can go sideways. When you are choosing to engage in civil disobedience, that's not going to be spontaneous. You know that somebody in your group is documenting. You've set up a bail fund in advance. You have your lawyer's number written on your arm in Sharpie. Is a scripted event that is meant to draw attention to the cruelty, immorality, and illegality of the regime. People in your affinity group, the people that you're planning with, y'all have all done a risk assessment and you have consented. Other people at No King's Day are not in your affinity group. They have not planned for, they have not been trained, and they have not consented to a scenario in which laws are going to be broken and police or ICE are going to be involved in potentially brutalizing and arresting people. Consent, safety, safety, safety. All have different levels of risk that we are able to step into. You don't get to decide to break the law and then ICE is like, everybody in this fucking group is getting arrested. Somebody in your group coming to No King's Day may be there with their small children. They may be a caregiver of an elderly relative and they can't go spend a couple of days in jail. Somebody in your group may be undocumented. Somebody in your group may have a disability or some kind of other physical limitation, injury, etc. That means they are particularly vulnerable to being physically accosted, arrested by law enforcement. None of those folks will have consented. That's why I think No King's Day, not the place for civil disobedience. And I think that Indivisible is absolutely right in this instance to say, like, no, not in this space, not at this event. I think overall, Indivisible has a commitment to no civil disobedience. People can correct me on that if I'm wrong. That's sort of the vibe that I get from what I've read. I have my own thoughts on civil disobedience. I'm not going to encourage anybody to break the law, but it is a form of nonviolent direct action. It's very powerful. It's very strategic when it is done well. I think on my main TikTok, and I'll be reposting it as part of my nonviolent resistance series on my YouTube channel, I want to talk more about civil disobedience. An area where I have like this much knowledge, right? The depth of knowledge is just tremendous. Again, I really encourage you to go look up information on the AIDS ACT UP movement, as well as the civil rights movement. Because we can clearly see throughout history in successful nonviolent movements that there is a place for civil disobedience. It's very important. It's not something that you do impulsively. It's not something that you do without having built skills and having laid all of the foundation, all of the preparation work. Like, wait, like, you know what you're doing. You're consenting to it, you're planning, you're prepping, because you need it to be successful. If you're willing to get arrested, if you're willing to interface with law enforcement, potentially have charges brought up against you, potentially be brutalized by law enforcement, that sacrifice that you're making has to be effective, right? Has to serve a purpose. So I want to talk about that more from my limited experience and perspective, from what I learned in the resistance boot camp the other week. But suffice it to say, 9 minutes that I spent talking about this, no civil disobedience on October 18th. No King's Day, not the place for us to carry out actions where we are going to get arrested and potentially expose other people in our group to the same. Consent and safety. Consent and safety. Think about the goal, the purpose of the event, and whether or not our actions are helping us achieve that goal. I think for No King's Day, civil disobedience, not the point. Not going to help us advance our goals. I appreciate all of the folks who asked, like, why is it that that's not a thing that we're doing? And I hope this helped clarify a little bit.